Are we live? You
Well,
didn't give us.
you
You,
know,
didn't give us the gesture.
I bet if anybody is listening to us every time, we always ask, "Are we live?"
I know, because I get so excited.
They're probably wondering, don't these morons know what's going on?
You would think so. Hey, there we are. We see ourselves.
Really?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, look, there we are.
Yeah, we do. There we are. Hello, hello.
Well,
Nobody.
I'm gonna
Not saying hello to anyone because no one's here yet.
No one's here yet.
But we are still excited to be here.
Boy.
Now I've got to go to. Oh, there's somebody. Hello, Rachel. Welcome to the party.
Rachel is here. Thank you, Rachel, for joining us.
Yes, because we were all by ourselves.
We were, and we were lonely.
We were lonely.
We were feeling dissed.
Dissed.
Is that the correct word? Dissed?
I mean, dissed is like when you get burned. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
you're
that's how-
bigger than you used to be. Something like that.
Hey, there we are live. I'm gonna start. Look, I'm gonna start.
You're gonna start a watch party.
Watch a party. There we go.
Everyone. Well, it's just Rachel right now. So, you got your phones out. Start a watch party. I've been trying to pull up a watch party for the longest time right now. I don't even see it. There we go. There we go.
Rachel, do you feel lonely?
Hey, we have 3 viewers, but one of them is Trevor Gameau,
Who is
our producer tonight.
Oh, another time he is producing.
Yeah, he's produced 4 times. Bruce has produced.
And let's just be honest. He kind of called us out tonight.
He did. He called us out.
He
made me feel self-conscious about me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the right way of saying that.
I understood what you were saying.
Thank you.
Yeah. He kind of got us off track a little bit about what we were going to talk about tonight. So now, what we can do is if we make no sense at all tonight, we can blame him because he took us in a different direction than what I was planning on going.
Yeah, we had a killer message.
He took one of the verses I wanted to do out.
He did. It's almost as bad as like in between services when we think we killed it, and then we go up and hear Bruce.
Yeah, it says, "Have you thought about saying it this way?"
Elizabeth, hello.
Because no one understood what you said, and it made no sense whatsoever. Hey, how are you?
Yes, Elizabeth Hicks is in the building,
and
ladies and gentlemen.
Just in case you were wondering why I'm actually here, because last week I said I was not going to be here.
Yes.
I was supposed to be on vacation this week.
He went Houdini.
I did, and it rained.
Yes, it did.
And rained.
It rained a lot.
And rained. And I decided not to take vacation on the rainy week.
Yes.
So I scheduled it for next week.
Yes.
So the Trevor Gameau will be here next week.
Yes, he
in
will.
my stead.
The man, the myth, the moron. I love you, Trevor. Anyway, I just wanted to say, Brad, it feels good.
It does.
To just be back with you.
Yes.
You know, last week was great.
The team is back together.
But yeah, the team is back together. And we're excited to be here because we are kicking off something new, but we'll save that for
I think down deep I'm really hoping that Trevor screws it up next week.
Next week so that
when I come back then
so that you can only raise the bar.
Exactly.
Very good, very good. Yes. Well, if you are just signing on, then you're not missing much because at the very beginning, we just like to goof off a little bit to give some people a chance to log on and all that fun stuff. Hello, Lois. Hello, Scotty. Hello, Kim. Glad that you could join us. Man, your chat is popping.
I know. It's happening.
Yeah, you've got a lot.
I can't read it.
Yeah.
But that's
Do you have a watch party going?
I have a watch party going.
What is a watch party, Brad?
A watch party is where I don't really know how to explain it.
Okay.
I just push the button because you tell me to.
It's kind of like
and
a Reese's
it goes
cup.
out to all your friends, and they can watch the video that you're watching with, and you can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, so if you've got your phone or your iPad or your computer, whatever you're watching on, if you want to go to the share button, you can press share. And then on the very bottom of all the options or at the top, it's start a watch party.
Yep.
And then you're watching with your friends. Your friends can comment. It kind of protects the privacy of your friends so that they're, if they're joining a channel that they've never been a part
because
of.
they don't want to be seen with us.
Exactly. They don't want to be seen with us. But yeah, so that it's just kind of another cool way. Hello, Lauren. Good to see you. We are excited about tonight. 8:04, one more minute, and then we got the brain teaser for tonight.
Oh, the brain teaser. And I want you to know, Jordan gives the notes of all of this beforehand.
Yes.
And on it, actually, is Jordan asks Brad brain teaser.
Yes.
Underneath it says Brad answers incorrectly.
Yes, it does. I just like to encourage you.
I think that's It's true, but it borders rude.
Well, it's hard truth.
It is.
Love hurts, Brad.
Sometimes love does hurt.
Sometimes
it's
love
all good.
does.
I think we're ready.
I think we're ready
Let's
too.
go. Come
all
on.
right. Yeah. So we are going to start off with our brain teaser tonight, and right now we are tied 0-0.
Yes. And we don't foresee that changing anytime in the future.
Yes. We don't. Especially not after tonight. Okay.
Okay.
And so, Brad, tonight is a special night for a lot of people. Do you know why?
If you say something about the NBA, it's going to make me gag.
NBA Finals starts tonight. All right, Brad, do you know who is in the NBA Finals this year?
Only because you guys told me this week at lunch.
Who?
The Toronto Raptors.
Okay.
And the Golden State Warriors.
Yes, and you see, that was going to be my question because I didn't think that you would know.
The only reason I know that is because Trevor and Bruce and I went to lunch, and they started talking NBA, and I said, I don't even know who is in the playoff. And so they told me. They were shocked that I didn't know.
Well, see, for everyone watching, Brad used to love the NBA.
I did used to love the NBA.
He still loves basketball.
When they used to play basketball.
Yeah, wow.
Which they don't do anymore.
Oh, boy. And so now Brad has this just hate relationship for the NBA.
Yes.
So Trevor and I, we like watching the NBA. We watch all the finals together. So we're excited about that. But not excited. We are overjoyed because we say excited all the time. And so tonight is going to be a question about the NBA itself. All right? So this is a fair question for you.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about this era.
Okay. All right.
As you said, the Toronto Raptors are playing the Golden State Warriors tonight.
Yes.
Toronto is in Canada.
Yes, it is.
Okay? And the Raptors didn't always used to be a team. Bradley, when did Canada, in what year, get an NBA team? In what year did the Raptors become the Toronto Raptors?
I have a shot at this.
You do have a shot. I picked one that was a little bit up your alley because it's a good, 20 years ago when you were still watching?
I'm going to say 2003.
Ooh, you overshot it.
I did?
Yes. It's in the 90s.
Really? I thought about that first, but I thought it can't be more than 17, 20 years.
Yeah.
Really?
1995.
Really?
Yeah. 1995 was when Canada acquired an NBA team.
Were the Raptors somewhere else before that?
Trevor, were the Raptors somewhere else? Nope. No idea. We're going to go with swing and a miss. No. We're not sure.
No one cares.
Yep. Nope. All right. Well, we are still tied at 0.
People in Toronto actually watch basketball?
They have some crazy fans.
Really?
Every home game that people aren't able to make, even some away games, depending on who they're playing, if people aren't able to get tickets.
What was this?
I don't know. Well,
okay.
I don't know. Just hand gestures.
Okay.
They watch outside the stadium. They put on the big Jumbotron.
Really?
They've got thousands of people that.
So it's got to be what, 42 degrees in Toronto?
Yeah. They're all bundled up in their coats and everything. Oh,
that's
boy.
crazy. Well, hey, welcome everybody to C3 Thursday. We're actually going to talk about something that hopefully makes a little bit of sense. But my name is Brad Maddox, and I am the outreach pastor here at Crossbridge Community Church. And this young gentleman, NBA enthusiast, is Jordan Chitwood, our young adults pastor, right here. And there you go. So I'm done.
There you go. Yeah, you're done. Hey, well, we are glad that you are here joining us today because last week, if you missed, we had our Bible trivia amongst the pastors, and lo and behold, Bradley Maddox is the greatest pastor on staff here at Crossbridge.
That was the winner would be called the greatest pastor of all time.
Yep.
And no one has called me that yet.
I just did.
Thank you.
But
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's the last time.
I did have somebody in the congregation last week say, I got more right than you did.
Did you?
And
all of Facebook got more right than
I was not shocked at all.
That's funny.
So that's okay.
Hey, well, anyway, like last week is our 4th week, kind of where we just wrap up the series that we had just finished. And now we are starting and kicking off a brand new mini-series. For 3 weeks, we're going to be looking at the letter of Ephesians. And we are really trying to make this more intentional, give you some opportunities to study the Bible. And so take it just another step if you have always wanted to study the Bible, but you're not exactly sure how do I study the Bible? What does it look like? You know, those are some things we're going to unpack as we just look at a 6th chapter. It's a small letter in the New Testament, just the letter of Ephesians. And so, yeah, we're excited about it. Yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah, Ephesians, Ephesus was a city, a major city in Asia Minor. Asia Minor.
Yes.
It's actually Turkey.
Yes.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I am terrible at geography.
That's okay.
I have no idea.
We found that out when we did the landscaping thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, which way is...
Yeah, we didn't know. But
yeah,
so it's actually modern-day Turkey, and it was in a very important city. It was a big trade center, A lot of worshiping of gods there.
Yes, a lot of idolatry.
Yes, and so it's actually, as I was researching a little bit today, it's one of the only letters that Paul wrote that didn't try to correct what was going on there.
Yeah.
Now they get corrected later in Revelation.
They do, big time.
Yeah.
So off that point, real quickly, is there's two reasons why Paul wrote a letter. First was to encourage, and second was to confront.
Right.
And this was one of those letters that it was big on encouragement.
Yeah, and basically the thing that's cool is he's kind of setting this up. It's actually done in two parts, basically. The first part of Ephesians is talking about the gospel and all the benefits of Christ coming. And then the end of it is actually about what's to come, the unity, bringing everything together.
Yep.
And I love, let's read a scripture, 1:10, chapter 1, verse 10 says this, "And this is the plan. At the right time, he will bring everything together under the authority of Christ, everything in heaven and on earth." And we talk a lot about journeys here, and we talk a lot about the story that God is writing, and Ephesians is filled with that, of what God is doing, what's happening in our lives, how he's going to use us, and how he's going to bring everything together.
Yeah, all for his glory. And so we've got this letter believed to be written by Paul, or at least one of Paul's disciples, and either way, mostly it's associated with Paul, written to the church in Ephesus, encouraging them because they're under heavy persecution as well. The Roman government at the time is still persecuting Christians, and they're under the influence of a lot of Egyptian gods, a lot of Greek gods, a lot of just idolatry, different situations there. And so Paul realizes this and wants to continue to encourage them that, hey, faith is difficult, it's challenging, but I am encouraged to see your faith so strong when he's dealing with things like the church in Corinth or the church in Galatia, all of these different things.
Right. And at the end, and towards the end of Ephesians, he's telling us this is how you live this out, especially living in a pagan world.
Yes.
Living in a city that is known for its idolatry, especially sexual idolatry.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Artemis was one of the main gods, Diane, depending on the version.
Yep.
And so here he is saying, hey, you are called out to live a different kind of life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so chapter 1 is one of those chapters in Ephesians where or one of those chapters in just really the Bible where Paul spends most of his time starting out with, his greetings, why he's writing. When we are studying the Bible, like I said, we're going to unpack, how we study the Bible. When you are studying the Bible, whether it's a book or a letter, you always have to ask the questions, who wrote it, why was it written, and who was it written for? And those are important because understanding the context doesn't diminish what it means for us in our day now, because while it was written at a different time period, in fact, it is more encouraging and strengthening because what you start to realize is, wow, they were dealing with a lot of similar stuff, or you get to start to see the progression of how the church has grown from how it was struggling to where it is now.
And we knew that Paul wrote this to the Ephesians in the situations they were at, but he also knew and understood that this letter would be circulated to the other churches around the area. So even though it applies directly to the Ephesians and the culture and the things that they were dealing with there, it was still good and worthwhile for all the churches and even us today.
Exactly, and that is so important to understand. So this is a letter, but yeah, that's chapter 1, the key verse that we want to talk. We're going to focus more on chapter 2 tonight because, like I said, chapter 1 is kind of the introduction for Paul. And then we get into chapter 2, and we want to read this verse, chapter 2, verses 1 through 5 from the New International Version, and it says this. As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature deserving of wrath. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. There is a lot to unpack in those 5 verses.
Yes, indeed. I just love the ending. I'm sure we're going to get to that, but that line, rich in mercy.
Yeah.
I love those words together.
Exactly.
And we'll find out in the beginning of this Ephesians is, I keep wanting to say Ephesians. Ephesians.
If the Ephesians.
Yes, Ephesians. Well, how much grace-centered this is. How
it's just
grace, 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 and it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think, Bruce kicked off our last series, and he started talking about our enemy.
Yeah.
And how he's trying to bring us down. We'll talk a little bit more about that actually this Sunday also. But I love how he starts here. Is the Spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. That's what we're battling all the time. And I think sometimes we forget that.
Yeah. Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes very easy for us when we are either going through the motions or even when we're being challenged by stuff to forget stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's 3 words that stand out to me from that verse. They're not even in the verse, but something kind of, whenever I read this, 3 words that I just think about, and it's murder my flesh.
Wow.
Okay? And so when we're dealing with Paul writing this letter in chapter 2, he starts out by saying, you used to be slaves of this world. You used to be individuals that pursued sin, chased after the things that were not of God. And in order to pursue God, you have to beat your body. You have to put your soul to rest. You have to attack what is of the world in order to chase what is of God. And so the 3 words that just come to my mind is like, we've got to literally murder our flesh, our personal flesh, so that we can pursue that of God.
Yeah, you're making me feel bad already. And I was just kind of thinking of some of that stuff today, just the struggles that I am dealing with, some of the battles that rage on in my life, and it's having to put those things to death.
Yeah.
And man, that's tough. And sometimes I think we think of the major sins and the major things that this we got to conquer, but there's all kinds of things.
Oh, absolutely.
In everything from we were joking about eating habits, and to me that's one of the things I'm really struggling with now is I know that I need to lose weight. I need not to just gratify myself by eating. When I'm stressed, I start eating, and it's things like that, and that's part of that.
Yeah. And
so thanks for bringing that up.
Absolutely, no problem.
Appreciate that.
Trevor and I will be going out to eat after this, but and so but then it's going to connect those 3 words, murder my flesh, are going to connect to what we're going to talk about for the rest of the night, and that's grace.
Right.
One thing, again, like I said, throughout this series, we're just going to be giving you some ideas of when you're studying the Bible, how to do it. Like I just came up with when I was reading this passage, I came up with 3 words, murder my flesh. If you're going through a passage, you're like, these words stick out to me. Something that we like to do is we either highlight or we write at the top, right on the side. Keep note of how you're studying so that when you want to reference it, you can go back and say, hey, this is the theme. But anyway, those 3 words transition because Paul at the end, as he said in verse 5, he says, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. And this is why I think those are connected. The idea of attacking that of the world and then being saved by grace. For 2 reasons. One, we are very arrogant people.
Yeah.
Humanity in general. It's either all about us or it's all because of us. That's typically how living in this world goes. It's either all about me or it's all because of me. Like, I did this. And so one thing that I think Paul is saying in this is, hey, if you are truly going to understand who God is, you have to understand it's nothing that you did. It's nothing your body did. It's simply because of the grace and mercy of God.
And we are... Even when you start understanding that, it's still such a hard thing to get over because we think we have to earn everything.
Exactly, yeah.
We have to do something to earn it. So it's hard for us to believe, okay, God's going to forgive me just because of grace, just because of his that he's rich in mercy.
Yeah.
And so there's this constant battle that, even though we believe it, well, I still have to do this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get a wrong idea here is that because we understand the grace, it does change our heart and changes the way we want to live.
Yeah, it should.
And it's not, we don't change so that we earn the grace. We change because of the grace.
Yes.
And so that's when it comes to, what are the things in my life that God's revealing to me, speaking into my life and into my heart that I need to murder that in my flesh so that I can respect this grace, this gift that he has given me.
Yeah, it's when James writes, faith without works is dead.
Right.
People have asked, okay, well, Paul's over here saying that works don't matter, like it's all about grace. No. What James is saying is because you have faith, because you've received grace freely, now you should want to, you ought to, you are called to live differently.
It's a natural consequence of the change of your heart.
Exactly.
I like that word. The fruit of the Spirit. It's the fruit of the Spirit.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just something changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have we beat that one enough?
I think we've beat that one enough. Let's move on to passage number 2.
Very good. Passage number 2. And this is honestly, it's one of the very first verses that I memorized. I love this verse. It's Ephesians chapter 2, 8 and 9. And here's what it says. It says, God saved you by his grace when you believed. And you cannot take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so none of us can boast about it.
Wow. Isn't that powerful?
Yeah, and to me, of all the verses that talk about grace, this is the one because you run into people who want to argue a little bit about, well, there's still some work involved. There's still some things that you have to do. There's still some things that hoops you have to jump through. Yeah. And to me, this was the verse I go to that says this shows it's not about anything that you have done or can do. Yeah. This is God in his grace, God in his mercy pouring it out to us so that you cannot boast. Because if we had even an inkling, it's just exactly what you said. We're the kind of people that were prideful, and if there was anything that we had to do, we'd say, "Hey, look, I'm better than that guy." You know? So, exactly. So this is why I'm on God's good side.
Yeah, and especially for a culture that for years had been living under a different covenant. Again, these covenants are going to be coming up all throughout our series, even though we're finished talking about them mostly. For a long time in the Old Covenant, in the Old Testament, where you've got the historical accounts that said, if you do this, then you receive this. Yes. And so the Jews, for the longest time, believed, hey, if we just follow the commandments, then we're going to be blessed because of it. And it was about them. Like, it was about the nation of Israel. It was established for them. Jesus comes in, and, we've got plenty of verses that say God is a jealous God. God is one that wants to be recognized, deserves to be praised. And now it's all about Jesus. Right. And so Paul makes it his mission, and most of his letters has a verse similar to this that says, hey, it's either about Jesus or it's about grace alone, which, hey, Jesus is grace. And so, yeah, I love that.
So it's not only the Jewish culture, but even the pagan cultures at that time. Yeah. You had to do things to make the gods happy. Yeah. And so this is a foreign concept to these people who are listening and where they're living in, the culture they're living in, is that, well, yeah, if you have an illness, if you have something wrong with you, if things aren't going the way they're supposed to be going, it's because one of the gods or God himself is mad at you. Exactly. And I think Paul is trying to get us, no, this isn't about you. Yeah. This is about something different. Yeah. And we hear it all the time, and we feel that at times is when things don't go the way we think they should go. We start thinking, well, maybe I've done something wrong. Maybe God's mad at me. Exactly. Now, there is consequence to sin. There's no question about that.
Yeah, our sins definitely do.
And so we have to be aware of that. I think a lot of times consequences of sin and that's why God doesn't want us to sin. It breaks his heart. Yeah. Don't go down this path, because if you go down this path, there's going to be earthly consequences. Yeah. Not that he's necessarily dealing them out, but it's just better if you stay within these guardrails that I've given you, because life is going to be so much better lived.
Yeah, exactly. And there's something powerful about that, because as you're studying, again, as you're studying these texts, as you're studying, hey, why is Paul writing this? And you hit it right on the head. In their culture, they associated everything to that of their God. Right. Whether it was good or bad, if you were Egyptian, if you were Greek, if you were a pagan, if you were a Christian, whatever it might be, if something was going on, it was because of God. We do the same thing, but why that is important for us today to understand is when we're called to this concept of grace and called to walk in humility, walk in grace, walk in mercy. I think that there is a lot to be said about a God who meets us in the middle of our circumstance, but didn't necessarily cause it. Oh, yeah. And so that can be, again, that's another topic for another day. But as we're talking about, just what Paul hits on a lot, especially when you're studying this letter and really any of Paul's letters, we want to push you, again, to ask these questions. What culture was he writing to? Okay, so this culture believed that everything was associated with God. Then how does that affect how I read these verses from Paul? Right. And so, so this last one that we want to go over tonight is Ephesians chapter 2, verses 19 and 22. And Paul writes this: "So now you Gentiles are no longer strangers and foreigners. You are citizens along with all of God's holy people. You are members of God's family. Together we are his house, built on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets. And the cornerstone is Christ Jesus himself. We are currently joined together in him, becoming a holy temple for the Lord. Through him, you Gentiles are also being made part of this dwelling where God lives by his Spirit. Paul kind of just summed up everything we talked about in those last few verses.
Exactly. The thing that's cool about this is, and I think we don't forget, but we don't realize that we are the Gentiles.
Yeah.
We are the ones. And again, going back to the culture thing, is that the Jews thought just by their birthright, they that's how they were going to be saved. They were Jewish, so that's God. They were set apart. And now what Paul is saying is that, man, this is the unity part we talked about at the very beginning.
Exactly.
We're all in the same place.
Yeah.
We all have the same grace. We all have access to the same God.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy how Paul comes full circle. I mean, just referencing chapter 1, but then you also see this in Corinthians and the letter to the Galatians, where there's a lot of talk about circumcision versus uncircumcised. Those, for those that weren't aware, if you were Jewish, then you were called to be circumcised. That was your way of declaring your faith for God and then your salvation and that your relationship with God. That was the physical act that you did. When Jesus came, he declared that you no longer had to be circumcised to receive that. Again, it goes back to that verse. It is by grace alone. It's not because you were circumcised.
Right.
These verses, these 3 verses that we just read kind of connect everything by saying, even if you are circumcised, even though nowadays you don't have to be anymore, you're still as much included as us. And just because we're not circumcised, we're included just as much as you are. Like, God came here to declare that whether you were A, B, C, or D, whatever letter you might have been, that you have the opportunity, equal opportunity to choose God.
Right.
It doesn't matter what we do. We have that choice. And like you said, that choice should then change how we live.
Right.
But we don't have to change before we choose that life.
And I love the point that when we talk about unity here, because you got to understand that you got the Jewish believers, the circumcised believers, as they were even called a lot of times in Acts, who grew up in the Jewish law. So they're circumcised believers who are believing in Jesus. We've got the Gentiles who were worshiping pagan gods, and now it says this. It says the cornerstone, and the cornerstone is Christ Jesus himself.
Exactly.
No matter where you are, no matter whether you're Jewish, whether you're Gentile, whether you came out of a pagan, whatever it is, the cornerstone of your faith is Jesus.
Exactly.
We've been saying that the resurrected Jesus is what the cornerstone of our faith is.
Yeah.
That is the point.
Yep, that is what matters, and that is their sign. Like, that is their symbol. Like, Jesus Christ, for a nation, really just all of us, we look for something physical. Like, even nowadays, we want to be able to see God. We want to be able to see God's works. We look for something that can be a sign of that. And obviously, we don't have the privilege nowadays to physically see Jesus himself, but we have the opportunity to see so many blessings throughout so many people and see Jesus in the lives of so many. But now it's not about the physical circumcision or the physical baptism or the physical communion. It's all, and those are all powerful things, and they can still be great ways of us showing faith. But it comes down to this cornerstone, this rock, this solid foundation that everything else then stacks on top of.
Right. That's the basis of everything.
Yeah.
You can get all kinds of people from every denomination in this room, and we can have fun discussing theology, arguing and disagreeing about different things, but when it comes down to the one main event, Jesus, we're all on the same page.
Exactly. Hey, well, that was Ephesians chapter 1 and 2. Like I said, we're going to be throughout these next 2 weeks just giving you some tools if you're looking at taking your faith to the next level, if you're looking at taking your Bible studying to the next level, and you're like, hey, I've really wanted to learn how to study the Bible, but I'm not sure. Take some of the notes, see how we do it, how we like to do it. All of the pastors on staff study the Bible a little bit differently. We all like commentaries or books or novels or website sources, whatever it might be. There's really no wrong way to do it, but there are definitely some more helpful ways. And so be taking some notes, ideas, comments. Next week, we're going to be looking at chapter 3 and chapter 4 of Ephesians. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll be wrapping up. But yes,
and I will be on vacation.
Brad will be on vacation.
And
Trevor will be with
sitting
me.
right here.
And so
and the knowledge that boy has is scary.
It really is
in
crazy.
so many ways.
Yes, it is going to be good. We are looking forward to it. This week, though, Sunday at 9 and 10:30, Bradley is preaching on week number 3 of Paper Tigers. It's going to be a good one. You're not going to want to miss it.
I am very excited about this one.
Yeah.
Talking about insecurity. So if you have some insecurities in your life, we're gonna deal with them.
Yeah, we are, and it's gonna be challenging. So thank you so much for joining us this Thursday. We will see you next week. Have a great rest of the night, and go Raptors.
Oh my gosh.